Certainly not with mine. No.
Although you love engaging with Twitter, you're well engaged with it, and you were the whole way in your time in office. I'm sorry, not in office, but in the seat.
But in terms of the first draft and the total position, where I originally didn't want to actually write anything, and I was coerced by MUP. But I'm glad I did.
We're going to hear a lot about Louise Edler's coercion this evening.
But I'm very glad I did, actually, because it gave me an opportunity to put on the record the circumstances of mostly of a quite unusual parliament. There's some other history in terms of my book, but it's mostly about the hung parliament and the players that were involved. So social media didn't have much to do with it at all at the start. It has since it's been printed, of course. There's a number of views that have been expressed. Some kind and some quite unkind.
And we'll get to those. Louise Edler, what usually is the first draft of someone's a political memoir?
The first draft be probably not, might have a fair element of narcissism in it, but it might not occur, first of all, in the social media sphere. But it's usually diaries or notebooks or schedules from years that have been kept. Anna Bligh might have a view, Peter's certainly got a view on this, but it's a very interesting process thinking about the first draft. I remember talking to Peter Costello or approaching him, and he was rather surprised at the idea, had not written really anything longer than 5,000 words and was pretty frank about, straightforward about that. But the next meeting we had, he'd come to the meeting and I saw that he actually had a chapter outline. So I thought, there's the first draft. We're done and dusted, and could I have the manuscript in about 24 hours, please? It took a bit longer than that, but that was interesting to see that actually kind of structure and a shape to it. Sometimes you need to, change that around, but it's quite interesting to see what a first draft looks like.
Together?
Well, go back to when I first got into politics, and there are a lot of issues to deal with when you're a new member. I was 32, and so I used to like to just start writing down the arguments for and against propositions. So that's how I sort of started.
Did you keep a daily diary?
No. And, often there'd be months when I didn't write anything at all. But I was very interested in the issues, so I just wanted to know what they were, basically. And then as time went on, I sort of developed it a bit. A newspaper that I thought was either right or wrong or just interesting, I'd sometimes paste that in, and then I'd write what I really thought about it, give it to them both barrels sort of thing. But it just ended up in here with 120 books. They're still going, actually, believe it or not. A bit strange.
You're recording
don't
these
open
days.
that.
And then, well, that's another story. And then I had coffee with Louise. Now that was an experience, I can tell you.
We'll get to that. Anna Bligh, the question was about narcissistic social media feeds. Did any of this have anything to do with when you first started to put together the idea for your memoir?
Not so much Twitter. I wish I was a more disciplined diarist. Unlike Peter, I didn't keep diaries. But what I did find was lots of lists of things to do. So I had booklets that I would write, things I have to do today. And that actually draws you back into what was on your mind, what was a priority, the things you didn't cross off because you never got to do them.
Yeah, I got a few of
All of that helps. But on the public record, transcripts of press conferences, some of them are, 45-minute press conferences, but they're actually available. And of course, all of that you forget. So I very much drew on things that are on the public record, and I was surprised at how easy they were to get and how much they quickly put them in a different order than I'd remembered them.
Annabelle Crabb, you'd be out of a job if those tweets and...
Narcissistic...
Exactly, we're not actually used as the first draft.
Twitter feeds can be a swift, brutal and only draft of a suicide note on occasion. You should always remember that. But I actually really like going back and looking through Twitter when you look back over a period of intense activity in politics, like a leadership challenge or something like that. Often the tweets that group around an event like that, and this is one of the big differences between politics today and politics 10 years ago, is that rather than having journalists, say, running around Parliament House and gossiping with each other and gossiping with the people that they run into and putting away all that information and then crunching it into a story at the end of the day, they're kind of live tweeting that stuff, so you actually get, as a member of the public, a first draft
Yeah.
of a live event. I mean, that's what's really unusual
I
and
think this is-
frighteningly unreliable at times.
This is
about-
what the question goes to, which
Yeah.
is actually very interesting. It might not have been engaged with yet, and as a writer who engages with this field, I warrant it's going to.
But I mean, readers have to, I think, understand that you don't get the same checks and balances that
Sure.
you got in the old days, where you knew, you pick up a paper and you read that story and you know that most of the inaccuracies, if we're being optimistic, have been ironed out of it, right? When you're getting the raw product, then you've got to take the product warning, which means, well, look, you know, this could be entirely off beam, or it could be right now, but wrong half an hour from now. And that often happens in those fast-moving political situations, because deals or resolutions can come together and then
Sure.
dissolve.
Changes the whole idea of a primary source, really. We'll move on